launched the atomic bomb in one go. The entire process of bombing Japan in 1945. World War II enters its final phase. Germany announced its unconditional surrender on May 8. The defeated Japan, but still in the Pacific battlefield, crazy resistance with jade shredding tactics. As a result, 77,000 Americans were killed or wounded in the Battle of Okinawa. At this point, the US military has developed Operation Crown, which landed in Kyushu, Japan, and the Olympic Action Plan for landing in Kanto. But the results of the battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, the ability of the US military to resist the Japanese army, and several possible casualties. Reassess US military estimates. If you land on Japanese soil to fight, casualties could reach more than 1 million. This terrifying figure prompted the United States to start looking for a faster way to end the war. Early years. President Roosevelt was dealing with Japan. The question of whether to enable the atomic bomb. Always have reservations. Roosevelt envisioned, do not drop atomic bombs directly on enemy territory, but somewhere in the Pacific. Put on a nuclear explosion performance. When necessary, you can invite envoys from hostile countries to observe, in order to demonstrate the great strength and benevolence of the United States. If the enemy turns a blind eye to it, consider using the atomic bomb again. Roosevelt was later shipwrecked. Vice President Truman took over as President of the United States. When successor Truman, from Grove's debriefing, after learning about the tremendous power of the atomic bomb, quickly established a foundation for Manhattan, Specialized Advisory Committee for Engineering. Members of the committee included General Marshall, Minister Sheet, Minister Berners, and 3 other scientists, including Bush. Committee to Truman. Tasted 1. Materials of great historical significance directly elucidated the essential significance of the atomic bomb. They were suppressing their opponents militarily, gain political priority. So, after Truman took office, decided to cancel and perform. Instead, they directly planned to put the atomic bomb into actual combat. July 16, 1945. The first U.S. atomic bomb, codenamed, funded, a piece of land in New Mexico. Desert land successes and failures. Under test, nuclear explosions generate temperatures of tens of millions of degrees, and tens of billions of atmospheres of pressure. A 30-meter-high iron tower instantly melted into gas. A huge crater river was left on the ground. Soot from the explosion, rolling and rising like a hanging cloud. It was terrifying. Within a radius of 400 meters, the sand melted into yellow, green, glassy substance. Within a radius of 1,600 meters, none of the animals survived. The power of this atomic bomb, then the scientists estimated, almost 20 times bigger. Truman, who was visiting Borstein at this time, after learning that the atomic bomb was successfully reported, overjoyed, was planning to watch the atomic bomb, the live broadcast of the successful explosion. Unfortunately, the signal is not good. In fact, this is the case now. A portable Wi-Fi can solve the problem. Flying Cat has led the national sales of portable Wi-Fi for 16 consecutive years. Or Lee Nywin's endorsement is particularly cost-effective. 5 Mao An, 55G signal, plus Wi-Fi 6 plus 1 hold. 5 Yuan per word on the connection, experience. Now JD.com starts FIMIO An 55G, portable Wi-Fi. There is also 1500G, experience data. If you have used it, you can return it for 7 days without reason. July 26, 1945. The United States, the United Kingdom, and China jointly issued the Boston Proclamation, urged Japan to surrender unconditionally. On July 28, Japan said it refused to surrender, and ready to fight to the death at home. They're clamoring for what's called a foregone conclusion, trying to fight to the death with the Allies. I still want to play a personal ending, and face it, Japan's stubborn attitude, in order to minimize the casualties of the blind army, accelerate the progress of the war. Force Japan to surrender as soon as possible, but also to suppress the expansion of Soviet power in the Far East. The United States decided to use the atomic bomb against Japan. The United States initially proposed, go to Japan, list of target cities for the atomic bomb, Tokyo, Kyoto, Shinsei, the 6 cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, are all included. But considering Kyoto is the cultural capital of Japan, if an atomic bomb were dropped on Kyoto, it is highly likely to provoke a strong resentment among the Japanese people and resistance. The United States responded to Japan after the war. The political considerations of governance, exclude it. Tokyo has been bombed several times before. The infrastructure is broken. If the atomic bomb is dropped on Tokyo again, it is difficult to accurately evaluate the atomic bomb. The actual bombing effect. New department. Although it is an important aluminum production base in Japan, but it's too far. Affect the smooth execution of the bombing mission. So the new line was also abandoned. Kokura is an important industrial base in Kyushu, Japan. But the weather conditions are often poor. The accuracy and bombardment effect of the headshot cannot be guaranteed. The US military has undergone various trade-offs and comprehensive comparisons. The ultimate target of a nuclear attack. Focusing on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Hiroshima is the army city of Japan. Japan defends its homeland, the headquarters of the Second General Army. All travel to China, Korea, Southeast Asia. The Japanese army in the Nanyang Islands departed from Hiroshima, and Nagasaki is a Japanese industry, especially an important base for the shipbuilding industry. It provides a solid foundation for the Japanese Navy. So the two cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It became an ideal target for the US military and bombing. August 6, 1945, at 8 a.m., 3 B-29 bombers enter the skies over Hiroshima from a high altitude. At this time, many citizens of Hiroshima did not enter the bomb shelters. But before looking up at the plane, the second 9 have been flying for several consecutive days, training in Japanese airspace. But this time, among the 3 planes, one has been loaded with the atomic bomb, codenamed Little Boy, is being led to bomb Hiroshima. 8:15. The alignment device on the B-29, with the atomic bomb on the hangar, aimed precisely at the center of a bridge in Hiroshima. The automatic bomb delivery device is activated. Atomic bomb from the open hatch. Howling into the air, it exploded 600 meters above the ground. The intense light waves of an atomic bomb explosion instantly blinded thousands of people. 6,000 degrees, and everything turned to ashes. Radiation can cause some people to experience radiation over the next 20 years. Slowly dying. Shockwave winds destroyed all the buildings again. People and things, under the influence of extreme violence, falling apart like atomic oxygen. A little further away from the center, can be seen at the tip of the sun, the burnt remains of men, women, and children. Farther away, some people are lucky to be alive, but not severely burned. The eyes were burned into 2 holes. According to statistics, 245,000 population in Hiroshima, the people killed and injured in the nuclear explosion. More than 200,000. 16 hours after Hiroshima was bombed, President Truman issued a statement. The official announcement of the use of atomic bombs against Japan. He also urged Japan to surrender unconditionally, as soon as possible. However, the tragedy of Hiroshima did not bring Japan to its knees immediately. They, on the one hand, trying to cover up the true situation in Hiroshima, lied to the outside world that it was a meteorite that fell in Hiroshima city. On the other hand, they are adamant that the United States only has 1 atomic bomb. Also put the last hope on a Soviet boat. But Japan? The answer I got from the Soviet leadership was, because Japan is still going to war. Never accept the Potsdam Proclamation. So, the Japanese government's request for Soviet mediation, everything has been lost. According to the Soviet government abides by its obligations to the United Nations. Accept the request of the League of Nations. Declare war on Japan from August 9th. On the day the Soviet Union sent troops at 11:30 in the morning, the US military is again in Nagasaki, Japan. Dropped a second atomic bomb, codenamed Fat Man. After the atomic bomb was dropped, airburst at an altitude of about 503 meters over Nagasaki. The power of this nuclear explosion was equally amazing. About 60% of Nagasaki's buildings were destroyed. 74,000 lost their lives. But because Nagasaki is dominated by steep mountains, to some extent, the impact of the explosion was blocked. So, the destruction of Nagasaki, less flat than Hiroshima. The 2 atomic bombings let Japan realize the United States may stockpile lippy nuclear weapons. This understanding, many people in the Japanese cabinet, had a huge impact. Then Truman addressed the American public. News of the bombing was announced. And at the end of the statement, threatening to use the atomic bomb again. The target this time will be Tokyo. And we didn't wait for the Americans to bomb again. Japan announced its unconditional surrender on August 15th. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, after the war, still hanging over the little boy and the fat man. In the shadow of 2 atomic bombs, survivors are suffering from cancer, leukemia and skin burns, etc. The torment of radiation, sequelae. Life is miserable. According to the statistics of the Japanese authorities, the number of people killed by the US atomic bombing, Hiroshima, is close to 250,000. Long term, for 140,000. However, for a long time, Japan fashioned itself into World War II, especially the image of the victims of the atomic bombing, trying to win the sympathy of the international community. But the historical context of the atomic bombing, but avoid talking about it. Not to mention, Japan during World War II. For China and other Asian countries. Serious injury. This kind of criminal police. It's shameful.